created to have some fun together, sharing and singing. So, join and enjoy.
Our love for opera brings us together. Thanks for being with us in this trip.
Oddio, oddio, oddio. In today's episode, we are talking about one of my favorite roles. Well, it's not only my role, also my musical piece from the opera Tosca, the very well known opera Tosca by Maestro Puccini. And even I think it's a good time to already mention to you that, of course, we are talking about the Te Deum by Barone Vitellio Scarpia. Scarpia, one of the most horrible characters, one of the most detested roles in the whole history of opera, of course, in the voice of a baritone. Why do I say of course, and why do I say that it has to be a baritone? Because remember that there are many ways in which opera is very, if not predictable, it really follows very clear standards. It has very things that it likes, or that it has liked to do just because it's tradition, and that is the case for the baritone. In the story, usually the plot, the bad guy is usually the baritone, and that holds really true for the role of Barone Vitellio Scarpia, which happens to be the chief of police of in the location of Rome in Italy. And before I get in, or I share with you any further detail, I would like to go back and say or mention or insist on what I just said. It is part, or it appears this role is part of the opera Tosca, one of the greatest favorites of all times. In the case of the soprano, one of the most difficult roles for a soprano. It really takes a soprano with a beautiful line of singing, as Maestro Puccini usually demands, but also a voice that has enough stamina to overcome the second act, which is very heavy, which requires several times that the soprano hits the high C. But today's episode is not for talking about our dear Floria Tosca. We're in fact talking about the horrible character that is Vitellio Scarpia. And I wanted to talk a little about, or I started by talking about Tosca, because Tosca and Scarpia are in fact the two who are the main characters, who the way of the progress of the opera is in fact on the shoulders of Vitellio Scarpia and Floria Tosca. Cavaradossi is in a good number of manners secondary. Cavaradossi, we will talk about him when we refer to Luce van le Stelle. That will be a different episode, of course. But going back to Scarpia, Scarpia is the trigger of the many things that happen in Tosca. I also posted, if you want to go back to that post in our Ko-fi page, you can find the link in the description of all episodes. You can find a post where I talk about the role of what I called back then the catalyzers. This would be the case of Vitellio Scarpia. He's a catalyzer of the whole story. Without Scarpia, nothing really happens in Tosca, and would be just a love story with nothing more than jealousy and anything else. But that is not the case. And I keep insisting on the role and the evilness, if you allow me the expression, the evilness of Scarpia, because now that we want to talk about the character, the personality of Vitellio Scarpia, we have to say that first, he's a man of power. Not only back then in Italy, in Rome, not only back then, people, the head of the police carry some authority, a good level of authority. They are in a good way not only people of power, but also people of political power, because it not only, unfortunately, not only back then, also nowadays, people in the roles of investigation and criminal justice have this lean towards these political sides. When people who are against the status quo, a given authority of the time, are simply captured as in political vengeance. And that's what we understand the role of Scarpia is, because when the opera starts and Angelotti has escaped from prison, the first thing that Scarpia has to do is to capture him again, because Angelotti is opposed to the political party that Scarpia supports on his side. So that's where the political struggle starts. Scarpia looking to capture again Angelotti, who could be that opposite political party, and that's why it is so important to capture him, and that's why it is important to find that Cavaradossi is on the side of Angelotti, because if he is on the side of Angelotti, then he is opposed to Scarpia, and being opposed to Scarpia means you will sooner or later, in this case very soon, you will become a victim, if not a prey, of the evilness of Vitellio Scarpia. I insisted for a second time in the evilness, not only now that I explained about the political authority and role of Vitellio Scarpia, but also on the evilness, because that also leads us into today's content. It has been said from the technical side of it that Vitellio Scarpia is not a difficult role to sing from the vocal point of view. I really disagree with people who support this point of view, and let me explain you why. You can argue that Vitellio Scarpia does not have an aria per se, as it would be the case of Urna Fatale, an extremely difficult aria for the baritone. Or he doesn't have a lovely aria, as it is the case of Giorgio Germonti in La Traviata. Yeah, none of the two in that side of the spectrum, where he needs a good level of musicality, a good strength in the voice, a powerful volume, rich high notes. None of that is true. But on the other side, opposed to that, Vitellio Scarpia has to do with his voice, because this piece that we are talking about, the Te Deum, also known as the Tres Birri, una carrozza, require a consummate actor. Scarpia is a consummate actor. He's not singing beautiful melodies as in Di Provenza il mare il suol. Of course, he's not doing that, but he's doing something maybe more difficult than that, which is that he has to sing, but his singing is closer to parlando or declamato, or sometimes even yelling, but always in the character, because a soft, beautiful voice, and that would be the reason why personally I don't like George London in this role, because George London has a beautiful, elegant voice, and Scarpia is not a beautiful, elegant baritone. Scarpia is an evil person of power who will not hesitate to do whatever it takes to get what he wants. And what does he want? He wants to capture back again Angelotti so that he can have him killed, either executed or hung. And later he will also desire the same for Cavaradossi, only for having obstructed his plans and for being the lover of Tosca. And he also wants Tosca just because of the sexual appetite he has for her. Those are the three desires that we understand from Scarpia in Tosca. None of them has to do with justice. None of them has to do with pursuing his endeavor as the chief of police, but using the power to achieve what he wants. And that's what needs to be reflected in the voice of Vitellio Scarpia. Also, we need to mention that not only is this a very interesting piece of music, a challenging piece of music because of how the baritone has to sing it, but also Maestro Puccini has given it one of the most impressive and interesting orchestrations among all his compositions. The orchestration that has to provide this spirit of starting this religious celebration known as the Te Deum. That's why this part is usually called the Te Deum, because it happens as part of the Te Deum. So we will listen to the choir and to the orchestration with the sounds, with the very deep sounds of that organ in the background, which gives a very particular characteristic to the sound, because when we will listen to it in detail, or we will discuss it in detail, because while Scarpia is saying all those horrible, tremendous phrases declaring what his plans are, in contrast, Maestro Puccini is giving us that religious celebration in the background. And we will also discuss it in detail a little ahead, but I also wanted to mention that there is this wrapping, because this is at the end of the first act, that has to, in a way, end spectacularly. And if you allow me, I think that Maestro Puccini really achieved this, providing us with the ending, with the wrapping up of a first act, where we will learn from the voice, from the mouth of Scarpia himself, what his plans are. But let's get into the details of it. So we are coming from the scene where Scarpia has lied on purpose. He has lied to Tosca so that he knows that Tosca will lead him to finding Angelotti. So with those lies around Cavaradossi and a lady, because it seems that a lady has been in the same chapel as Cavaradossi, as he mentioned with his own words, que Tosca morde il veleno, means Tosca has fallen in the trap. I wanted to contage this doubt and jealousy in the heart of Tosca, and I did it really, really well. So it is going to be Tosca who will lead me to Cavaradossi, and for sure that will lead me to the place where Angelotti is hiding. This is all part of his plan, and that's how it all starts, and that's how the orchestration gives the passage to the Te Deum, which in fact starts with the words "Tres birri, una carrozza," which means Scarpia instructing have 3 agents and a carriage so that they can follow Tosca. So the opening words are, my plan continues, and my plan will continue as 3 of you in a carriage will follow Tosca to wherever she goes. And it is very interesting because we have mentioned in the past several times in other episodes, in other seasons, that Maestro Puccini is very demanding in the ligaturas, which is an indication to the singer that it has to be sung with the same homogeneity, with the same fiato, and with a very good quality in the line of singing. But as I have been mentioning, Scarpia is not a role to be sung. Scarpia is a role that is more spoken or even more yelled, as it is the case in the following act. So that's what puts the baritones in trouble. Because if it is, and I was mentioning from my perspective, the case of George London is a very elegant singer. So he tends to say, tres birri, una carrozza, like singing, but tres birri, una carrozza is not singing, they are instructions. So the more the baritone sounds like instructions, the more believable he is. So he has to be, of course, me not having a baritone voice, I will not be able to fully show you what is expected. I will give my best to try to give you an example or to lead you as to how it should sound. But think of it. It is an instruction. Tres birri, una carrozza, presto, seguila dovunque vada, non visto, provvedi. So go quickly, have these 3 people in a carriage and follow Tosca, wherever she may go. Make sure that you are not seen. Non visto, provvedi. Be careful. And he gets the reply from Spoletta, sta bene il convegno. So, yes, sir, we will follow your instructions. What do we do next? And so Scarpia will reply, Palazzo Farnese. You will find me. We will continue this at the Palazzo Farnese, which is, of course, where the second act will take place. But we understand it now because after the instructions of following Tosca, he says, yes, we will continue with this at Palazzo Farnese. But Palazzo Farnese has to be said rather than sung. I will insist more on the said rather than sung. Has to be said with such emphasis because Palazzo Farnese, it's an important place because it's where everything is going to happen according to his plan. The baritone cannot just say Palazzo Farnese because it loses all sense. If he just says Palazzo Farnese, it's like saying, oh, where is the grocery? The grocery is around the corner. No, the grocery is not around the corner. The grocery is around the corner. It is the Palazzo Farnese. That's what the audience, the people, what everybody needs to believe. That Palazzo Farnese is the place where everything will happen. So Spoletta leaves, and still with this growing melody in the orchestration. And I also want to remark what we have shared in other episodes, that the score by Maestro Puccini for Tosca has many notations. Puccini was very interested in having the singers do what he wanted them to do. And so there is an instruction, con sorriso sardonico, smiling sardonically. Va, Tosca. You know, va, Tosca. Go, Tosca. Because as you go, the more you approach to finding Cavaradossi, the closer I am to recapture Angelotti and get Cavaradossi and, of course, get you. That's what this simple expression of Va Tosca really means. It is not like Va Tosca. No, Va Tosca doesn't really mean anything. It has to put all the emphasis there. Va Tosca. The following expression is very important as well because it's going to proclaim what he just got. Nel tuo cor s'annida Scarpia, because now in your heart lives Scarpia. Now making reference to the fact that the jealousy that is now living in the heart of Tosca is Scarpia himself, because he knows he has harvested that doubt in the heart of Tosca. So that expression of nel tuo cor s'annida Scarpia, he's so proud of having injected that poison in Tosca. Again, it cannot be just nel tuo cor s'annida Scarpia. It is not a beautiful line. It has to be convincing and evil, like nel tuo cor s'annida Scarpia. Here I would like to mention something because as I was reviewing, and that will be spoiler alert, the case of our bonus episode for the memberships, In the bonus episode, I paid attention to how the baritones were grabbing each of the last syllables, because as in this case, Sani da Scarpia, it cannot be Scarpia, it has to be the pia, has to take a certain emphasis so that the evilness is transmitted. It has to do something like Scarpia, maybe deforming a little the a so that the evilness makes sense. Sani da Scarpia va Tosca. Again, he's insisting. Remember that he's not actually singing. And now we have a notation by Maestro Puccini saying ironically, and there is not ligatura here. We again don't care about saying va Tosca. It is not again va Tosca. It is va Tosca. Again, I would emphasize on that maybe it's more advisable that the baritone does something with the final A of Tosca. Va Tosca. He continues, and we still have instructions by Maestro Puccini where he says that he is in the middle of La Folla, in the middle of all the crowd that is arriving to the church, insisting that this religious Te Deum is about to take place, because he says, Scarpia che sciogli a volo il falco della tua gelosia. For Scarpia, who has fired in your soul and stirred up your jealousy and passion, which basically means I know how to manipulate you. Tosca, what you're doing is what I want you to do. You, Tosca, think you're acting on your best interest, but no, Tosca, you're acting because I manipulated and commanded you to do so. That's what this expression means. And again, you cannot say it with a beautiful legato. Scarpia che scioglie a volo il palco della tua gelosia. It cannot be like that beautiful legato. Continue singing. It has to come from a beautiful baritone voice. Scarpia che scioglie a volo il falco della tua gelosia. If you notice, not only that I am adding volume and trying to give more pasta to the voice, but also the intention. Again, we have a wrapping up of the phrase with the a, with the a, gelosia. Again, if the baritone does something with that final syllable, gelosia, quanta promessa nel tuo pronto sospetto. In this case, it is not an A, but it is an O. But it also makes sense that he doesn't say quanta promessa nel tuo pronto sospetto. Quanta promessa nel tuo pronto sospetto. Peto, peto. Remember that it is important that the baritone is able to convey that evilness, and if he has to do it with the syllables, with the ending vowels, much better, because that makes it more believable. So, quanta promessa nel tuo pronto sospetto means I really think that I am on the right path, because when I saw that you were suspicious, I understood that you were hiding something from me. So again, Tosca, you are not acting on your own interest. You are doing it because I was able to manipulate you. And based on what I saw on your face, I know that I was right. So quanta promessa nel tuo pronto sospetto, insisting on the phrase that he has said before, nel tuo cor sani da Scarpia. A little higher, now going for a mi, for a e, for the baritone, which is not a problem for him, fortunately, for the baritone voice, the mi or the e uh, central for the tenor, a little in the upper register for the baritone, is very comfortable. And it is very good because with all the pasta that the baritone voice has, the Sani da Scarpia is very effective and it is very powerful. Nel tuo cor, Sani da Scarpia. Remember that I think I may have exaggerated the R. Sani da Scarpia. But remember to insist on the A, the final vowel, so that we understand that this is not a baritone with beautiful singing, but an evil Scarpia, showing off what he is able to do when manipulating Tosca. He's going to insist again, Vas Tosca. Again, insisting, and forgive me if I insist this too much, but it has to be continuous, because if you do Sani da Scarpia, evil, and then you do it beautiful, Va Tosca, it is not the way it has to be done. So still, Va Tosca. Then this is where actually starts the choir and more of the melody of the religious Te Deum, because you will listen and the instructions by Maestro Puccini con voce parlata, qui fecit colum agiotorum susteri nomi Domini. In the middle of that choir, now piano, ma con ferocia, which means fiercely, Scarpia has to say, a doppia mira, tendo il voler nel capo del ribelle, e la più preziosa di quello chi vittoriosi veder la fiamma languidir con espasimo d'amor fra le mie braccia, languidir d'amor l'uno al capestro, l'altra fra le mie braccia. And here I wanted to do it continuously because I wanted to prove something. There is something that I wanted to mention. We are going to go back to this episode because take in mind that I was telling you that this is where the intervention of the choir starts. So there's going to be sort of a competition or a complement between the sound of the orchestra, the voice of the choir is starting with the ecomnilisiquedam. You will notice it in the background of the full rendition of the aria, and you will have above that the sound, or you will very easily notice the continuous, and notice to that expression, continuous expression of Scarpia, a doppia mira tendo il voler, because he basically doesn't stop, he makes very small pauses. After that, tendo il voler nel capo del ribelle, pausa, e la più preziosa di quegli occhi vittoriosi veder la fiamma, no poses, continuo, languidir con es massimo d'amor, again, forte, fra le mie braccia, and there is a canone. That's what makes it very interesting, because before his fra, after the spasimo d'amor, at the same time sounds the canone, fra le mie braccia, which in terms of what we are watching is very effective, because remember that we have continuously heard to this very beautiful continuous voice, powerful voice of a baritone in a region of their voice where they are very comfortable. They can add volume, they can add the pasta and the power very comfortably. So that's what many people like about this part of Scarpia, even though it is not musically beautiful, because it is not meant to be musically beautiful, it is very effective because of the area of the region of the voice where he is singing. So when he says "Adopia mira tendo il voler," he has said that he's pursuing his goal, il voler, which really means what I want, and the hanging of the rebel, nel capo del ribelle, means I am going to hang Angelotti. E la più preziosa ha di quell'occhi vittoriosi veder la fiamma. Of course, when he refers to la più preziosa, he refers to Tosca, to the most beautiful one here, because those eyes, those beautiful eyes, I want to warm, I want to start that fire of love, love languishing flame, when in my arms she's clasped. Because he says, con spasimo d'amor fra le mie braccia. Of course, he doesn't really mean love here. It is not a spasimo d'amore. He is daydreaming of having Tosca in his arms. And pay attention to this expression, because in the middle of the religious scene of the Te Deum, while all the choir and the people are singing to their God, what Scarpia is saying is, "Oh, Tosca, I desire you so much." Fra le mie braccia il languidir d'amor, lo al capestro, l'altra fra le mie braccia. And here we have in the notations by Maestro Puccini, and that's why I remarked it that hard, is because this phrase, each of the syllables, l'altra fra le mie braccia, they are remarked on the scores because they are very important. When he has said lo al capestro, one of them it will be in the torture. That's what the capestro means, in the scaffold, for torturing him. So while we will be torturing Cavaradossi, l'altra sarà fra le mie braccia, which means Tosca will be in my arms. What, of course, an evil and sick thought of saying, I will be torturing your lover while I'll have you in my arms. And Maestro Puccini remarked it. That's why it is, again, it cannot be l'altra fra le mie. No, it cannot be l'altra fra le mie. It has to be l'altra fra le mie braccia. Then the voice of the choir will rise. It is in fact marked as fortissimo. Te Deum laudamus. You will recognize it because it is the part after this horrible phrase by Scarpia, l'altra fra le mie braccia, interrupted immediately fra le braccia, te Deum. And these are, by the way, these are very long notes. They are, again, Maestro Puccini has requested that it is more effective that the voice of the choir is long and continuous, very few ligaturas. So, te Deum laudamus, te Dominum confitemur. Of course, me being the same voice, I don't sound like the choir, but believe me, because there are 3 lines for the choir, which is, by the way, very, very effective as well. And after this phrase of the choir, confitemur, and the notation by Maestro Puccini, starting as in a dream, svelandosi como da un sogno, like waking up from a dream. Tosca con forza, there is an expression, Tosca, again with power. Tosca mi fai dimenticare Dio. The phrase of Tosca mi fai dimenticare Dio, again accompanied by the sound of a canyon. Also remember that the canyons sounded at the beginning of the act because it was detected the escape of Angelotti. So that's why the cannons are happening. Of course, Maestro Puccini knew that adding the cannons to this scene would make it very, very splendid. So when he says, Tosca mi fai dimenticare Dio, Tosca, you are making me forget my God, my heaven. Tosca mi fai dimenticare Dio. Of course, not assuming the responsibility for his own thoughts, because he's putting all the blame on Tosca. So, Tosca mi fai dimenticare Dio. And I would like to mention another thing. When the expression dimenticare Dio, the Dio, besides being long, it is also with a notation on the score that the baritone makes sure that the Dio is very well rimarcato, that people understand that there is emphasis on the, it is not Dio, it is Dio, and it is also a crescendo because not only this is another of the times when the composer makes the life of the singer difficult, because it is not only Dio, it is not continuous Dio, it is Dio. It has to be growing in volume, not in height, but it has to grow in volume. Dio! And then interrupted again by the choir. It says, con entusiasmo religioso, with religious fervor. And again, now in fortissimo, the choir. Ta, ta, and then it's also the expression of grandioso. Ta, eternum. And there is also, by the way, another canone, because in this phrase, Scarpia, Vitellio Scarpia, will join his voice to the choir. So we will wrap up in fortissimo, the orchestration in fortissimo as well. So choir in fortissimo, orchestration in fortissimo, and the same Vitellio Scarpa in fortissimo, with the final phrase to wrap up the Te Deum. Ta eternum patrem omnis terra venerator. Venerator. Again, it is also important to mention that the venerator is also emphasized. So it is not venerator, it is not legatura, it is not venerator, it is venerator. Of course, Maestro Puccini knew that it would make this much more impressive. And after this wrapping up of the choir and Vitellio Scarpia, comes this astonishingly impressive sound of the orchestration. Of course, my voice is not the best way to convey it, but remember that for copyright purposes, we are not allowed to send it and the episodes music, because copyright will chase us and probably cancel our program, and that's not what we want to happen. So to wrap up the idea, the Te Deum, or the Tres Birri una Carrozza, is an immense piece of music by Maestro Puccini, demanding a great actor, a great singer, but moreover a great actor, a baritone who is willing to study syllable by syllable to provide the right emphasis where the emphasis is required. A baritone that is willing to convey a meaning, a personality to Vitellio Scarpia, rather than just showing, oh, what a beautiful voice I have, and look and how beautiful I sing the Te Deum. Te Deum, Tres Birri una Carrozza by Vitellio Scarpia, is not meant to be beautiful. The Te Deum is a proclamation of look what I am willing or what I will do. That's what the Te Deum is.
You can follow our channel for the latest updates and more content. Opera We Love Singing, in just one word. Link in the description of the episode.